Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, Force here, and today we'll be checking out Divinity Original Sin. This is an upcoming isometric turn-based RPG from Larian Studios. Now Larian is the development team behind the Divinity series, which includes games such as Divine Divinity, Beyond Divinity, and Divinity 2. Here in this video I will be showing you guys an early build of this game, as well as giving you my initial thoughts and impressions. And what we're going to start off here with is actually a bit of the combat. Once again, this is a turn-based RPG. So you'll notice on the right hand side we have got character portraits, and that just indicates the attack order. The character portrait at the very top of that list is the one who currently gets to attack. So the first thing I'd like to show you here is sort of the way the various elements in combat actually work together or against each other. Now you'll notice that my ally just froze our two enemies. I am now going to cast a fireball, and in doing so I remove that freeze effect and actually set them ablaze. So this introduces one of the really interesting aspects of this game, and that is how the elements interact with each other in combat. They work intuitively, they work the way you expect them to. So just as you saw, the freeze was removed and now they're caught on fire. Now it is my ally's turn, and he is actually going to call down a rainstorm, which, as you guessed, is going to remove that fire. So it's this really awesome system, and I found it quite engaging as we went through various combat encounters to sort of see how they all work together and how we could use them in our favor against our allies. In fact, what you're going to see even more of that interaction right here. Notice that rainstorm has formed a puddle at the foot of the archer. Now I will cast an electric spell which will charge that puddle and then electrocute the archer. It's really awesome interaction, and it's funny because it seems so intuitive. It seems, oh, okay, that makes sense. Fire melts ice, and water gets rid of fire, and then electricity charges water, which can electrocute people. But it's something that I feel like you don't really see in a lot of RPGs. In fact, I remember it being such a big deal when I first played BioShock. The notion that I could electrocute the water that people were standing in to then electrocute the people who were walking through it. But that still doesn't diminish the fact that I think it's a really cool feature, and I was excited to see it in this game. So there's a few other things I want to talk about here in this combat, and also just so you guys know, if you're wondering, Force, where's the combat sounds and why does it seem like you're doing commentary after the fact and not during? Well, that is in fact the case for the reason that this is such an early build and the server was quite unstable that we were playing on. And in fact, it was only a server consisting of two people, myself and my co-op partner here, the developer. But also because this is such an early build that there's actually no in-game sound. So there's no character or combat sounds, nor was there a soundtrack. Now, you're probably going to hear some music in the background, but that's just a track that I got from the developer after the fact to add in. But again, such an early build that there's actually no combat sounds or character sounds in the game at the moment. This is something that will of course get added, and this game is still going through Kickstarter, which we'll talk about a little bit later here in this video. But yeah, that's the reason that we're approaching this video in this particular format, as opposed to the live commentary, which I typically do. So my co-op partner here, they summoned an ice elemental, which has been added to our party on the left-hand side, and they also get a spot right there on the right-hand side attack order. Now it's also important to keep in mind that this is something that you do have direct control over. The person who summons a companion has direct control, and he's going to send him over here to try to attack the opponent, but unfortunately, as you saw, he actually walked right into that electrocuted puddle there, which stunned him in place. So it even works against you, those sorts of situations. In fact, if I were to charge a puddle and my ally or myself were to walk into it, we would encounter a similar problem there. And now that we're going to notice here, we've got a little bit of conversation basically happening after the fight, and a big portion of this game is sort of how the two main characters interact with each other. Now this can either be done with someone else or while you're playing by yourself. Actually, take a look at this here. This is really funny. If you walk on ice, yeah, that's right, you slip. The elemental interaction in this game, it just cracks me up, and it's really awesome. I really do enjoy it quite a bit. Now that we've finished up a little round of combat, we're going to be heading into town here, in which you can take a little look at sort of the environmental interaction and how you can interact with NPCs, as well as how you interact with your co-op partner, be it an actual real person or just AI, and how you interact with objects in the environment as well. So another big part of this game when it comes to environmental interactivity is that you can move anything that you can pick up from, like, you can move. So I can move those barrels. You can move benches in this game. You can move any object from one spot to the other. It's really, really neat, and that's one of the big things that they've really been trying to do with this game, is add a ton of interactivity. Almost like Elder Scrolls levels. If you think about in an Elder Scrolls game how you can pick up any object on a table and move it, it's sort of the case here. In fact, in this game you can also do a lot of combination work. So I was told by the developer, and we didn't actually do it here, but I was told that if you have some nails, for example, and you've got a piece of wood, you can actually combine those two things to make a weapon. So you can take some nails and you basically would stick it into the headboard or whatever of that piece of wood, and then all of a sudden you've got a nailed plank. So it's really cool, all the combination and the interactivity that this game has, and it's something that I'm really excited about seeing how it progresses throughout development as they get closer and closer to this game's release, which is planned for sometime this year. If you're wondering, Force, this game looks kind of cool so far. When is it coming out? It is planned for eventual release in 2013. All right, so what you just saw me do here is I actually stole something from this guy who's working on the boat. I took one of the 9-inch nails, haha, reference. I took one of the 9-inch nails, and then I said, you know what? I kind of feel bad about that. I don't want to steal, so maybe we should put it back. And then it was my co-op partner's time to make a decision, and he actually decided, no, I want to keep it. So you're going to notice he got +1 greed there. So this is a system of personal stats in which the two characters can interact with each other, and sometimes you could play through the game and you could get them to be really good companions and really good partners, or you could get them to hate each other based on your decisions. Now, if you're playing with a friend who is making those decisions for that character, then that's how that's going to work. But if you're playing by yourself, you can actually have that dialogue. Either you can set it so that an AI is making that decision, and you can give them a certain personality, so you can make them greedy, so they're always going to pick the greedy option, or you can make them considerate, so that they're always going to pick the nice option, I guess. Or you can actually control that yourself, so you can have conversations with yourself, if you will, if that's the sort of RPG experience that you're looking to have. Now, I've got this little make it rain spell, and you're going to notice me call down a rainstorm. So if you see that boat that's on fire there, well, once I call down a rainstorm, of course the fire gets taken care of. I mean, what else would happen? It's so funny because it's so intuitive and it works exactly like you expect it to, but it's also so intuitive that you don't expect it to actually happen. I mean, and how many games can you call down a rainstorm and get rid of a fire that's taking place in the environment around you? Not a lot. So I really, really like that. I really, just the interactivity in this world seems so incredible to me, and it's one of the main reasons that I'm really excited for this game. Now we're going to be taking a look at some interaction with NPCs. Essentially what you just saw happen was an NPC stole something from a vendor. He was then confronted by a guard, and I said, yeah, he stole it. I saw him, and the guy got pissed off at me. And so that's one of those situations where you could be dealing with consequences in the future. If you ever come across him again and he says, hey, I remember you ratted me out, well then maybe all of a sudden you have an enemy. Now we are hiring companions here to come into combat with us, and we're going to be able to take a look at a little bit of that combat in just a moment. But yes, you can hire companions in this game. And also, I mean, I draw your attention to the lighting indoors and outdoors. I find it quite impressive. I think they've created a really visually pleasing looking world. Don't mind the glitching of the water. Again, this is super early development. It's either pre-alpha or super early alpha, one or the other. But the game, it still hasn't even left Kickstarter yet, so there you go. We've got this little conversation that's going to be taking place here with this crazy little goblin dude, and he is going to give us these little travel pyramids, which actually play a big role in this game. These pyramids allow you, there's two parts of them, and you are basically able to put one portion anywhere within the world, and then you carry the other portion with you, and you can teleport to that point anytime you want. And what you're noticing here is we are actually following him as we tried to pick up this little pyramid that allows us to teleport, and he teleported us, this nasty, nasty goblin, right into a lady's house while she was taking a bath. So now all of a sudden we have to explain ourselves as to why we are here, what we are doing, and what exactly is going on. Just a comical little event that took place. I actually laughed quite hard when this first happened while I was doing the run through with him. I said, you guys really just put me in the lady's house while she's taking a bath? And then the conversation that you have with this guard here, there's one of two ways it can go. You can either get him to back off, or you will have to end up fighting the guards. Now, in this particular situation, I said, how exactly do you know exactly what she's doing and her daily rituals, the fact that she was taking a bath? And then I guess he was kind of shamed into backing off, and so we didn't end up having to fight, which that made me quite happy because I didn't feel like fighting those guards. I think they're a higher level than me. So we'll be going back into town here, and I'll be picking up the other half of that pyramid. And again, it's this sort of, I guess it's sort of like a Hearthstone system, except you can drop it anywhere. You can drop the one half anywhere within the world here of Divinity Original Sin, and then you can just go back to there whenever you want. And I actually wonder, I don't think it would work this way, but I was just thinking if you were to play with another person in this game's co-op, if you could have multiple of these, but I don't think that's the case. And just to clarify, while this is primarily a single player game, it can be done in co-op, but this isn't an MMO or anything. At most, you'll be playing with 2 people. Now, there are tools for people to create quests and do editing. There's basically mod tools in this game that would allow for people to do those sorts of things, but I don't know if they're going to be able to add more than 2 people co-op. It could be an option, though. And check out this. I will use a knife for that pumpkin that I just stole, and then all of a sudden I've got a jack-o'-lantern that I can put on as a helmet. Just another example of how you can just take things and combine them for craziness. And this jack-o'-lantern on my head actually adds to my intimidation factor, which makes people a little more frightened of me. Now I'm going to be stealing some objects here. The goal of this was we wanted to take a look at what would happen when I get arrested, and the fact that my ally here can teleport to me because of those pyramids. So we'll be looking at that here. First I selected the wrong option, but then I'll be stealing another object and selecting the right option to make sure that I get arrested and go into jail, which you'll notice will happen right here. Okay, yes, do that. So I have to say, after 2 hours of playing this game, I'm really excited. I'm really excited. There was definitely some issues during our playthrough. There were definitely some problems. Specifically, we disconnected a few times, but that's to be expected. I mean, this is not really meant for public consumption right now, and there's a limited people who had a chance to take a look at this game this weekend. I think they invited just a few YouTubers and maybe some gaming press as well. If you want to combine any of those, that's an option, I suppose. But so I'm now thrown in jail because I stole something, and I said, yeah, I'll go with you, that's fine. And now my partner here was able to come to me, and he's going to rescue me by engaging in combat as we fight off the guards. So he's going to try to find the good place. And I don't know why I haven't mentioned this yet, but I'm sure you'll notice that as you move throughout the game, it's free moving. It works exactly like a Diablo game. You're able to click in a position and your character moves to that position, and that's that. However, once you engage in combat, you are then locked into this turn-based system. So it's a combination of sort of like a free-moving action RPG with that turn-based RPG, but the turn-based being entirely how combat is handled within this game. It's also worth noting as well that if your ally is not within proximity of a fight when you engage in combat, then what is actually going to happen is they are allowed to continue to freely move until they walk near that fight. So if you're playing with your partner and they're off in a different part of the world just searching around and doing whatever, and you leave town and you engage in combat, it's only you who will be locked into that turn-based system. Your partner won't be affected by that whatsoever. So this particular fight, the reason I wanted to show this to you guys, beyond the fact that she's coming to break me out of jail, is because you actually get to see me take control of my hired character who's in prison here with me, that little archer there. So yeah, whenever you summon a companion, or if you've hired a mercenary, if you will, then that is immediately going to give you control over them whenever it's their turn to fight in combat. And if you are playing by yourself and you don't have a co-op partner, then you obviously take control of every one of your characters, yourself and the allied character, as well as any companions that you hire or summon. So there we go. Now it's the turn of my hired archer to fight. So I will have him shoot some arrows through the little door here and do a little bit of damage, and then I'll have my character do some damage, and then we'll just continue along through the line. Unfortunately, it looks like the right-hand side, the character attack order, that got a little messed up, but anyways, we'll cut that there, and why don't we go ahead and show you one final fight as we wrap up this video, taking a look at Divinity Original Sin. So this last fight, this was quite an intense engagement and it lasted a few minutes here. This was actually one of the final things that we did in the walkthrough, and it was one of the more interesting battles. That's why I wanted to show you here, because we have got a lot of enemies and it is just the two of us. So there's a few things of note right here. Number one, primarily, we've got that acidic green stuff on the ground. If you walk over that, you're going to take poison damage, basically. And so that's something we're trying to keep in mind. We also have a couple of archers to deal with, and there's a few things. Now, what I'm doing right here is this little spell. I believe it's the Firefly spell or something along those lines. But I basically click points on the ground, and then there will be a cone of fire within the areas that I clicked. So I'm going to pick a few points to click there, and then that will be cast, and look at that. This nice little wave of magma. Unfortunately, it didn't go quite far enough, but now that the poison stuff was taken over by this fire that's now engulfed on the ground. And we'll see more of those elemental reactions come into play here as well. We also got this big bomber dude, and luckily, before he got too close to us to do damage, he did walk through that big wave of fire and explode himself like a big fool. Another ally here will be casting up an ice wall to block some of the damage from those archers. And we've got a big fire elemental also there to the left-hand side that we'll have to deal with in combat. And as you guys watch this, I'd like to just wrap up this video by going over some of the bullet points of the features that this game includes. So again, this is the most recent installment into the Divinity series. It does have improvements over the prior games, including the co-op play. Although it's primarily a single-player game, allies can kind of drop in and drop out and take control of one of your party characters when they do so. And then also we've got that co-op decision-making where you guys sort of decide things together, and if you make a decision but your partner disagrees with them, then you guys could be at odds, and this will affect your character's relationship as you play throughout the game. So they're billing this as a 3D RPG with old school roots, and I think after you take a look at some of this gameplay, it's pretty clear that that is the case. I mean, they're really trying to stick to the old school RPG elements, but this is in a modern 3D environment. It's also important to keep in mind that this is a game that will not hold your hand. There is one main quest line, but beyond that main quest line, all of your exploration and decision making is completely up to you. Now, after I spent 2 hours with the developer, I spent another hour just walking around, and there was no real hand-holding or guidance in terms of what you would do. You can literally talk to any NPC in town, and sort of like an in-depth RPG like an Elder Scrolls game, they all have something to say, and you can learn something from each one of them, and you can pick up a quest randomly. There's really you're not going to deal with exclamation marks and question marks over people's heads when you can collect and turn in a quest. That is not the type of game that this is. This is a real role-playing game that really requires you to be immersed in it, and it's going to provide, I think, a great experience for people who are looking for that sort of thing. So we've got the turn-based combat with the environmental manipulation, with combining all of those elements to play off of each other. And beyond that, there's also, again, the free exploration. They're really focusing on free exploration over linearity. There is one main quest line, but everything else that you do within this game will be completely up to you. The co-op multiplayer, the drop-in, drop-out multiplayer, which we explained, you can do that, or you can just play it as a single-player experience by yourself. We've got the social stats, social stats, which come down to your decision-making when you're communicating with your partner, with your co-op partner, or when you're communicating with NPCs. The decisions that you make will affect your character's social attributes, and that's going to play a role into your different capabilities and how people perceive you within the world. And then, of course, we've got the item interaction. You can literally move and combine pretty much anything within this world. If you see objects on the table, you can pick them up and move them. If you see barrels, you can move them. If you see benches, you can move them. And the combination, just like you saw me combine the knife with the pumpkin to make a jack-o'-lantern, you can combine nails with wood to make a weapon, and just all sorts of fun stuff like that. And then also there is going to be a quest creation tool, which is basically modification tools that let people design their own quest lines within this game. And from what I understand, there's a bunch of capabilities that will be behind that. People are going to really be able to do a lot. Take a look at all those electrocuted puddles that we've got on the ground. That is one dangerous spot. Unfortunately, electrocuting the ice elemental in there as well. So we're going to be wrapping up this video as we're getting close to the end of this fight here. But my main goal with this was to just show you guys a little bit of gameplay and talk with you about a few of the systems, because this is a game that I'm quite excited for. And just so you know, this is a game that's currently going through Kickstarter. They've reached their funding goal. Their goal was $400,000. They're sitting at around $580,000 now, with about 3 days left in the program. So they're still trying to reach stretch goals, which will allow them to do more with the game. I'm sure you guys understand how Kickstarter works by now. The more money they make, the more they're going to be able to put into the game, because the longer they'll be able to continue to develop it and put time and energy into it. So if this looks like a game that you're even remotely interested in, I suggest taking a look at the Kickstarter and maybe considering chipping in some bucks. Because if you do, and if you're interested in this game enough to buy it, you might as well do it through Kickstarter to help improve the game in the process. Not that I really. It's an interesting thing, because I don't really suggest people pre-order games until reviews, because you want to see if a game's good. But if this is a project that you're interested in supporting and you feel like it's something that you're going to get anyways, then supporting its Kickstarter to help its development along, that wouldn't be a terrible idea either. So yeah, we'll be wrapping this up, guys. Thank you so much for checking out Divinity Original Sin with me here today. It's a title that I am quite excited for. I'm really looking forward to seeing how it develops. And I'll continue to show you guys some gameplay. We're hopefully going to get a build sometime within the near future that has sound, so I can do live commentary as opposed to this commentary after the fact and beyond looping one track of music in the background over and over again, because that's the only audio from the game that I have. But yeah, it's a pretty cool looking game, and I was excited to show it to you guys. So there you go, guys. This has been Force checking out Divinity Original Sin. The game is planned for a late 2013 release. Kickstarter program still going on for a few more days. If you're interested, definitely give it a look. If you guys like the content, please subscribe. And as always, keep watching and keep owning.